All right, guys, so a long trip, but you're here. How about you introduce yourself, and let's talk just a little bit about how Vectronix and Safran got to the point of the Terrapin X, and then obviously the Vector X.
So I'm Philip, the product manager of Vectronix Shooting Solutions. This is actually a new unit inside Safran Vectronix. We produce dedicated and develop dedicated market for the civilian market. And I'm the product manager. Happy to be here.
And you noted Safran, and we'll get Matti into this next. If you don't know what Safran is a very large organization in all manner of aerospace electronics. Safran is enormous. Many people in the shooting world know Vectronix from the original Terrapin, the Plurf, the Vector 23, some great products that were specifically military. But then 5 years ago, this guy happens, 4 or 5 years ago. What was that all about?
Yeah, the Terrapin X has been launched in early 2018. It was the first product we've been done, especially for the commercial market, so not military. And it hit right the spot of the target group. And it was such a huge success. So it's a monocular rangefinder, 3,000 yards, Bluetooth, talks to the Kestrel and all that stuff. And this really hits the market, and it is still a very successful product. And so it was easy to convince the management to say, you know what, the long-range hunting community really likes Vectronix, and they probably know us all from their military times. Yeah.
Matti, your sales, how has this worked for you?
Yeah, exactly. So my name is Matti. I work in sales for Safran Vectronix and specifically for the commercial division, so Vectronix Shooting Solutions. Yeah, so it has been an interesting time for us. So we came out with the Terrapin X 5 years ago, and of course we're a military company at heart. So our business is 90% is military products. So it was also for our company a bit of a learning experience because the civilian market it behaves differently. Also the speed is different than in the commercial market segment. So it took a little bit longer to get used to it for our company, but now we have a nice product roadmap. And yeah, it all started with the Terrapin X, great product, and now we have something new, and it's getting really exciting for me that we start having like a portfolio and not a single product. So yeah, it's
and that leads us obviously to the star of this show, and that's the Vector X. How long after the Terrapin X came to market did you start building the Vector X? I assume that was fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm. Fairly quickly. You and us, we talked 5 years ago about a lot of features the long-range shooting community, precision shooting community requires, and we took some notes there. And I have to say, I think nearly all of your hints are in this product. So in total, we worked nearly 4 years on this product, from the scratch. And
as you guys got this out, what was so impressive to me is there are a lot of products in any market, but specifically in the precision rifle market, where you think there were X number of things that this product needed to do, but they didn't quite do all of them. What you guys have done with the Vector X is you took all of the things that we put on a list, and then you added a couple more to it, and then you executed all of them. And while it's easy to say, well, yeah, somebody should just do them all, you've done it with price, you've done it with features, you've done it with capability. So as we get into the Vector X, from a baseline, it was important that we see something from a shooting community that wasn't simply an 8 power or a 10 power. You've got 3 models here.
Yeah, we got 3 models, 8x42, 10x42, and a 12x42. So that's completely new. I think there's currently no 12x42 rangefinder binocular on the market.
Right.
So because 12 times is the maximum power you can still hold steady in your hands without using a tripod. So the demands, because you guys, the community shoots longer and longer distances, but the power with 10 times is super okay, but at the end, sometimes...
Every little bit matters there.
Yeah.
And you also have provision, just like you do on your Vector 23 on the military product, that this 12X product can become more than that.
Coming back on the Vector, the requirement of the US Army was that 7 times Vector needs to have a higher power, So instead of changing the power by the eyepiece, the ocular, it was added a huge lens system called the Big Eye. And so this DNA from our military side we took over and brought it here in the Vectronix, and we named them range enhancers. These are objective lenses which are being screwed. We have threads here in front of the Vectronix which are screwed in front of the Vectronix, and then you boost your magnification and you even slightly improve the laser performance by 40%. The magnification by 40%, the laser performance far less, but it improves.
And that gets your 10 power binocular into a 14, or your 12 power binocular into a 16 or 17 product.
17, yeah.
And that's quite a bit. I noticed as we were playing with these on the 12X, the field of view is very, very strong.
Yeah.
So while you do lose some of that field of view when you go to 16, 17 power,
It shrinks, of course, yeah.
you still get that power that you simply can't get anywhere else. Inside the range finding, and we have the range finding, we have the power. Something else that we asked for, that everybody watching this is saying, please, I hope they did it, is the reticle. Yeah. Matti, talk about the reticle.
Yeah, so we have an edge reticle in the device. So and we have two reticles to choose from. So there's a simpler reticle. That's quite a simple milling L, but capable anyhow. So, but it's for people who probably don't need a very complex reticle for spotting or anything like that. And we have a more complex reticle. It's called the dual magnification reticle, and that's to be used when you install the range enhancers. Both of the reticles, actually, again, we talked to people who are experts, same as you. So we talked with Fin Accuracy, who are a designer of reticles. They did the MSR reticle for Schmidt and Bender scopes and for Kahle scopes and Steiner scopes, and they designed these two reticles. So probably the more interesting reticle is the DMR reticle, the dual magnification reticle. And so in this device, if you have the reticle, it's calibrated to the base magnification, the left side of this DMR reticle. If you install the range enhancers, you have on the right side another reticle portion, and that's calibrated to the enhanced magnification.
Similar to the mill, like a mill dot on a second focal plane optic. You power up and suddenly your milling doesn't work anymore. You've got both powers, your base power, your native power of your binocular managed, as well as your extended range, your range extender side. And we thought that was cool. And you would think intuitively, and you guys are obviously going to see it laid over on screen, that two reticles may become busy, but it doesn't. You cleaned it up nicely. But the real dominant show on the screen, obviously, is what I think is the most impressive thing that you've done that I didn't expect to be done so well. With Vectronix, I knew the laser was going to be good, right? There are certain baseline things that were a given. The viewing experience inside the binocular is unbelievable.
Yeah, for the optical performance, it's a task. I mean, the coming back to get that name Vectronix was not as easy as you all think. No. So the heritage from the Vector, which is a rangefinder which ranges over 10 miles, being busy in all critical situations in the world, and it contains a phenomenal optic. Sure. So that means we had to do the same in this. So the optical calculation is honestly quite complicated, especially when an OLED display is in there. That means from the coding perspective, the overall calculations, and inside when we did the requirements and said we need to have a kind of a booster, the range enhancers, this overall made the optical calculations quite complicated, not very easy, but we achieved to manage a very, very color neutral image, and it doesn't break down with the range enhancers.
Yeah, and you've got brightness, you've got visibility on a lot of projected display, internal graphics in something like a binocular. It can be difficult to see, it can be dull, it can not be sharp, rather washed out.
Yeah.
You've solved that. And the product lives up to Vector. And Vector's a $30,000 binocular that's probably done more heavy lifting in the binocular world and military than any other piece of handheld glass ever. So to package that down, and I'd hoped for a year knowing that this is happening. I hoped that this was what it was. Before you guys came here, I was showing people, here's what I think they are consumerizing, basically, is this $30,000 vector that's enormous, but is the product. With all of that information that's on the screen, though, you've also done something thoughtful in allowing us to see it and use it and access it with the D-pad.
Yeah. So it was very important for us, to not put a lot of features in it and then it's not usable. So usability is always the key in a military product because, also for let's say a soldier, training time is not long. So he has to learn in a product and know how to use it in a very short time frame. So this is something we wanted to implement in the Vectronix as well. So usability was very high on our list. So it has to be perfect when it comes to usability. And how we did it was, one is actually the display, but it plays together with the D-pad. So you can see we have a 5-button D-pad, and anybody who has ever used a Nintendo or an Xbox or
any remote control.
Yeah,
any remote control.
Everything's controlled with D-pads.
You know how to use it. So it's 4 directional keys, it's 1 middle key. So and with these 2 components, the display where you can read everything nicely and in big letters and not abbreviations, and the D-pad, they play hand in hand or play together to bring this exceptional user experience and this high level of usability. Because you know how to toggle through the menus, and you know how to select something or how to change from meters to yards or how to change from degrees to mil. It's very easy. So you have now seen the device. You could probably give it to a colleague of yours who's not so much into shooting and ask him, please.
That's how we did it when you got it out. We're all in a conference room, and John and Zach and Nathan and Justin and Eric were all around, and there was no instruction manual. Gotten out, we grabbed it and we started pressing buttons and looking out windows, and there were a few features we didn't find immediately, but the intuitive use of the product and ranging and scrolling side to side to the hot screens and knowing what was in front of us. It was simple, and like you said, we could have handed it to somebody that doesn't shoot a lot, doesn't use devices like this, and intuitively they're going to find that information fairly quickly.
And in our company, they told us, let's say the higher-ups, you're not going to make just another range-finding binocular. It has to be unique, and it has to have these Vectronix USP features, so to speak, and one of them is usability. So that was really very high on our list.
To me, those are the big things. Some of the small things you guys did really well, and the small things we all know differentiate between a really good product and a truly great product. Let's hit list through some of these small things. Philip, let's talk about battery.
We started with a change of the battery. The CR2 battery is the standard standard battery in the sport optics field. Nearly all rangefinders got a CR2. The Terrapen X started with a CR123. So it provides you 1.5 up to 2 times more energy, so it lasts quite longer. But also, we all got a flashlight, and companies like Surefire and all outdoor equipment are using rechargeable batteries, 18650s. So we thought that's, I think, nearly required. We got so many. We got emails from people from Alaska and wherever it's cold. How long does it take? Like 3,000 clicks. When is it empty and that stuff? So we said we have to get rid of that. We have to solve a problem. So we implemented an optional, and it's in the scope of delivery, 18650 battery cap, and then you can use your 18650 whatever you got on hand. Yeah. And then we
can also not be lost. You capture the cap. Small thing, but it's a cool thing.
Military requirement, true military requirement. In every tender, you read that in every documentation. They ask for a battery cap, which you cannot lose. So we implemented that as well. And either with a long battery cap for the 18650 or the small, the CR123, we have here. I don't know whether you can see it here. This kind of, how do you say that? Cable.
Yeah, it's captured. It's retained.
Yeah. So if it falls off, it will not touch the ground. Yeah. It will stay there. Yeah.
Another feature here, which this is the one that John sat and played with.
Yeah.
The caps.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing. Many people fight with caps. They're tactile. They click on and off nicely. They just pull out.
You can rotate them.
It's a cool integral product. put these little devils wherever you want. I typically, with a cap, always find them in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
So flipping them out of the way is a nice small thing.
And also it was somewhat of a military requirement. They asked for a protection of the objective lenses. So it's a cool feature also for, let's say, civilian users, but was also more or less a requirement in the military field. So we implemented them, and they are part of the scope of delivery.
And while this is a consumerized version of the Vector 23, it's very obviously something that will be popular in military application, in law enforcement application, and then as well as with consumers and the hunting world, the sports shooting world. There are a lot more buyers for this product at under $3,000 than there might be for the Vector 23 at $30,000. It's a
That's
big
correct.
spread.
Yeah. But what the big Vector doesn't have is ballistics. We integrated here in ballistic solver from Applied Ballistics, the Elite solver. So we just jumped on the highest grade they offer. So inside there we have ballistics by Applied Ballistics, but of course through connectivity as Bluetooth, which is embedded, Bluetooth 5.1, you can connect with all Kestrels in the world. And
You've got a great, the mobile app's solid and gives us a lot of access to information, settings that are coming off of the product. Importantly, something that's done here, and this is a big feature more than a small thing, these two little holes right in the front are pretty important. What are we doing with those?
yeah, actually there's exactly this, the space and the place for our sensors. So we got barometric pressure sensor, temperature sensor, of course inclinometer is in there, and also a very precise DMC IMU for the direction of fire, the azimuth. And that means the overall unit can measure everything what it's been needed for ballistic, for the dope, for, all informations, except of course the wind. It got no wind meter in it.
Right.
But that means, I mean, if you either have a Kestrel or you have a good guess about the wind, you don't need anything else. Yeah.
So it was important with the unit that it was fully independent. It was not simply feeding something else data, pulling data from something else. You can see, it can range, it can do values with barometric pressure and station pressure and DA. You get a calculation all at once, so you're ready to fire. And while it obviously doesn't have wind built in, the two options are obviously a Kestrel, or you've built a novel, so you can manage it on the platform.
Exactly. So you can, with the D-pad, you can change two wind values, a wind 2 with a higher wind, a wind 1, and you can change them with the D-pad, the value, and then you can, I guess you call it bracketing.
Yeah, you can fairly easily, if you've got a wind that's moving from 6 to 10 miles an hour, whatever it is, you get both of those values. Oftentimes that wind variation then, hopefully your target fits inside it, or you can make a judgment call as you're preparing to shoot, where is it specifically in that window. The bracketing inside was nice. This is something that I've always found useful in like if I'm using the screen on a Kestrel itself, is set both of those values. But again, all of those things are happening at the same time inside this unit. What are some other small things that we missed? The mount system on bottom. Every person who's ever had a nice set of binoculars has fought with the crane mount, or if they're going to grab one of the optic tubes, or if they're going to have something big that straps over the top. I haven't seen anything like this.
Yes, we offer here the Vectronix an integrated tripod mount solution, which means it brings down the overall system as close as possible to the tripod head. Yeah? So here we got this little flap, yeah, and then you can put on, which is in the scope of delivery, a standard quarter-inch.
Yeah, the quarter 20 connection.
Quarter 20 connection.
So many things.
Yeah, and which means this tripod is directly connected without anything in between to a tripod mount, to a tripod head, which means at the end stability.
Right.
Yeah, I mean you can do remote measurements through the app. Yeah, then you don't have to touch it. But in general, if you don't want to use your app or your phone and you just press the button, it will not, or it will shake less. Yeah, let's say it that way. And that's also very unique. It was the very first thing our mechanical designers had to implement because this is in the inner core of the housing.
Right.
Yeah, so here it is. Yeah, that's also a unique solution.
It's a huge number of little things combined with some big things that get us to a product that is exactly what it should be, and it meets expectation of Vectronix, which is a quite difficult thing to do. And I think you guys are going to sell a mountain of these. The price point on them is under $3,000. You can add for a few $100s more, the range enhancers, and it gives us something that is very complete. I don't know what somebody is going to ask for that this doesn't include. That's, you know, there's some little, somebody might be picky about something, certainly, always. But you've really got everything in it. So guys, I applaud you for this. We're impressed by this. As soon as we pass it around the room, many of the comments are not necessarily YouTube safe about the quality of what they've done. But we see a lot of new things. And some are pretty cool, some are okay, and this is downright impressive. And the price point's shocking. So.
And Craig, you had a hand in this
Yeah,
a few years ago.
When there are a couple times that I've had conversations with you guys or other brands, especially in the optic or in the technology field, that you have a conversation and then you don't hear anything for a substantial period of time. Because, as you guys said, you spent 4 years going from a white sheet as a company that already knows how to do a fabulous job with lasers and range finding and all of the tech that goes inside. And you've obviously been making optical systems all along with that. It's a company that already knew exactly what you were doing. You still spent 4 years getting this to here and to where it's finally ready for, we'll see this thing in market in June, July.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, if you have an opportunity to get one, get one. And this has been a little bit of a longer sit down going into points. We'll have another video that you can obviously see that's going to hit some of these points kind of piece by piece by piece, a little more rapid fire. But as a long segment, this is really sweet, and I'm glad it's here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys.